You're listening to Nicksology on ESPN 1700. Buckle up as anything goes and having fun is the only rule we have. Now here's your host, Nick Apostolopoulos.
All right. Welcome to another episode of Nicksology. As the man said, I'm your host, Nick Apostolopoulos, owner of 619 Vodka. You can follow us on the web, Nicksology.com, Facebook.com/Nicksology. You can jump on the live stream there. The camera's working today, so we're up on the live stream. And then, of course, Nicksology SD on Instagram and Twitter. We have a really fun show for you today. We have beer and sake, and coincidentally from the same place. So I'm really excited about this. We have Chuck and Ilija here from Kuracali. How are you doing, guys? Welcome.
How's it going?
So you do both beer and sake, and we're going to start with the sake today, right? That's the kind of direction we're going to go. But let's talk just in general. How did you guys get started, and what led you to do both? And you were saying earlier in the green room that you're kind of happy you did both. Mm-hmm. But obviously there's challenges that go along with that, 2 separate licenses, all that kind of stuff. So what led you guys to go down that road?
Well, I've been doing homebrewing for like 15, 20 years now, but this is San Diego. There's a big competition here. Right. I mean, the bar is high. And I was sitting in a sushi restaurant about 5 or 6 years ago, wondering what I could do for a second career, a backup career.
Okay.
And the answer was in front of me. It was this sake bottle. I said, how hard is this? Turns out, not too hard.
Right.
Just meticulous, lots of details. You gotta pay attention. And here is something that I could bring to San Diego.
Okay.
Something people are familiar with, something that people know what sake is. They may not have a wide range of experience of it, but they know what it is.
And is that something you started out doing at home as well?
Yes.
Along with the home brewing?
Yeah, it took about 2 or 3 years to decide that I could actually make it consistently, make it good, make it tasty.
Right.
Then tried making it bigger, and I said, hey, here's something that I could do as a business.
Okay. And because it's different than home brewing, right? I mean, it's
right.
Yeah. And legally, it's considered winemaking.
Absolutely.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But how big of a transition was it? And obviously in San Diego, there are tons of home brewers, there are home brewer groups, etc. So you have all this support and talking to people like, hey, I want to use this hop. But with sake, you're kind of just out there on your own, right?
Well, mostly. It turns out that the internet has changed so many things, and it has also, here we are live streaming this.
Right.
It also has changed how people get information, how homebrewers can do things.
Right.
There's not a lot of homebrewer community of sake right here, but around the world there is.
There's a ton of them.
There are people who are really delving into every aspect of brewing sake, digging into the Japanese records and translating things, and I got to harvest that.
Oh, that's cool.
I got to learn how to do it by these other homebrewers around the world figuring out what to do, and then I took my beer skills and applied the same techniques of keeping things clean, keeping things cool,
right.
Making things tasty. I knew how to make the yeast happy,
right.
and I have to learn how to make the koji happy. Same thing.
Right. Well, let's try some. We have a lot of liquid here to get through. It looks like.
Well, I have several
start?
different sakes.
Okay.
Since we're doing the sake first. Now, traditionally, you go into a sushi restaurant. There's the cloudy and the clear.
Right.
And I brought both cloudy and clear. But in addition to that, I also have some infusions. Customers kept coming in saying, when are you going to do an infused sake? So I've got some of that to bring as well.
Cool. Yeah. Let's try some.
Let's start with the original basic.
Yeah. That sounds good.
Clear sake. This
so you mentioned the clear and the cloudy. So the cloudy's Nagori, right?
Right.
And so I mentioned to you again in the green room that we had Evan on from Psycho Sushi. And I noticed that when he brought sakes, nothing he had was cloudy. It was none of it was Nagori, and he went through all the stuff. So toward the end, I was pretty sure I was going to get smacked down, but I asked him anyway. And I got the dirty sideways look of like, we don't like that stuff.
Well,
what is that sake snobbery with the Nagori?
It's considered less refined. The Japanese have learned over hundreds of years how to make it clear, almost water-like in color and consistency. And they say, why do you want that stuff that we tried so hard to make it not like? But here,
see, this is my argument with sours.
Yeah,
sour beers.
Exactly.
Why are we?
Why are we drinking?
Yeah. Why are we drinking something we tried so hard to get away from? But anyway, that's a whole other topic.
Yeah. Graded sake. I mean, you would go to your local sake brewery and you would buy what you could afford.
Right.
And obviously, the cloudy stuff would be of a lower grade. At least that's my understanding.
See, I like it better. Well, I don't know if I like it better. I like good sake, but But every once in a while, I mean, maybe because it's sweeter and towards the end of my meal, that's kind of what I want.
Yeah.
I don't know. But
Well,
for me, it's like saying, I mean, I guess it's like, look, tiramisu's good, but cotton candy tastes good sometimes too, right? So, yeah, that's kind of where I land on it. But.
Now, there's an actual taste difference for a reason between the cloudy and the clear, and there's a reason some people like it.
Okay.
Having the rice solids in with the liquid changes the taste and flavor profile. It covers up some taste receptors in your tongue, opens up others, and it's just like food pairing. It usually makes it creamier, a little bit sweeter, and softer.
Right.
Plus, there is the appearance that people like. So it's just a different thing.
Yeah, see, I think that's nice. Like, for me, like I said, I usually order good sake towards the beginning, and then at the end, I want a little bottle of Nigori to kind of finish my meal. You know? So,
as you can see,
there you go.
we've got two different consistencies here.
Right.
One is water-like. One looks like it's
Milk.
1% milk.
Milky, yeah.
It's interesting to have people come into the tasting room and that hadn't really experimented or seen sake before, hadn't had a lot of it, and we'll go and we'll pour them some of the Nigori, and their eyes just get really big, just like, well, milk? Like alcoholic milk?
Right. No, the first time I thought it was a little weird too.
Yeah.
But no, I haven't tried this yet, but the regular sake is great.
Excellent.
So, other than the infusions, there's not a lot of variation. Is there a lot of variation you can do with sake?
There absolutely is. Sweet versus dry.
Yeah, right now you're having on the drier edge.
side.
Drier
Yeah,
side.
absolutely.
One of the things that we do, I find that about a quarter of the people that come into the tasting room prefer the dry. 3/4 prefer it a little bit sweeter. And that comes from the California palate. We've got sugar in everything.
Right.
And so we're just not used to the drier stuff.
Right.
A lot of the more traditional sake drinkers really do prefer the dry. Also, the people who like a dry white wine, their palate is adjusted because more flavor comes out in the dry. The sugar masks some of the flavors.
Masks the flavor, yeah. No, it's funny because, like I said, I like the Nigori at the end, but generally speaking, I don't like sweet things. I don't like, sweet wine or things like that. So, yeah, that's really tasty. All right, I'm going to go for this stuff.
Now,
You'll find this to be pretty dry as well. But definitely, texture-wise,
it's got a totally different
it's
feel.
smoothed out completely from the clear.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it's very... It's unique.
Now, these are actually the same batch.
Okay.
When you're making beer, at the end, you can let it cold settle and all of the stuff will drop to the bottom.
Okay.
Same thing happens in sake at the end. After I press it out of the bags, I have a big jug of milky stuff. I put it in the cold room for several days, and all of the white sediment will drop down, and I can pull off of the top the clear stuff.
Oh, cool.
This isn't actually filtered, even though
it's not filtered.
This isn't
Cold settled and just allowed to basically set rested.
Okay.
And then the bottom stuff is the milky, the top stuff is the clear.
Okay. So this is milkier than it otherwise would be because you've let it settle and pulled out. Okay.
What you're tasting right now is actually the product of our first big batch that we're doing. We're calling it Big Baby 1.
Oh, cool.
And,
all of our hopes are on it.
Yeah, all of our dreams and hopes.
Awesome.
But we have been processing that now for almost, how many months now?
Oh, that one's been going for a couple months, 2-3 months.
Yeah, and we can play with it. We can make it sweeter. We can allow it to dry out a little bit more.
Okay, so that brings up a big question. So how long does it take? Because I assumed it was on the order of beer time.
It is. So the primary fermentation of sake takes about 2 months.
Okay.
The first month is a series of doublings, starting out from a small amount, what you put the yeast in, and then periodic additions of water and koji and rice to build it up to the final stretch of fermentation, which takes about 3 weeks.
Okay.
At the end of that, I've got a big tank full of white porridgey mess that I will then have to separate the rice solids out, and then I can, for as long as I want, so long as it reaches its best maturity, I can let it cold settle and clarify.
Okay.
But the first fermentation part takes 2 months. It's
Okay.
Oh, think of it as like twice or 4 times as long as a beer, but far less long than wine.
Okay. Well, and so I'm gonna use my one fact I think I know, and I might be wrong, is that the cool thing about sake is the process of converting starch to sugar and then fermenting the sugar is the same. I mean, it's all happening at the same time, right? You're not cooking the starch to get the sugar and then fermenting.
That's right.
It's all at the same time.
That's the magic of
That's
the
my
koji.
I learned that somewhere along the way.
That was good. That's very good.
Totally
My
right.
one big fact.
Yeah. You know how beer has in the Reinheitsgebot has water, barley, hops, and grain. Water, barley, hops, and yeast.
Right.
Well, there's also 4 ingredients in sake.
Okay.
And instead of Reinheitsgebot, they have something called ginjo, or junmai, which means nothing else was added. And this is a junmai sake, and it has water, rice, koji, and yeast.
Okay.
Well, what's the koji? Koji is exactly what you were talking about. It's the source of the enzyme that turns starch into sugar, which rice doesn't have.
Okay.
That barley has.
Right.
I have to get that by putting a mold spore on some rice and letting it inoculate.
Okay.
And then I toss that in, and it will, at the same time that the yeast is turning sugar into alcohol, it turns the starch into sugar.
Okay. And so all that happens in the same process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so you were mentioning, too, that because of that, you can actually get up to with a higher alcohol content than beer and us poor distiller people can. So, well, you guys are doing beer, too, so I don't know why. But, yeah.
We're a house that does everything. I mean, that's one of the things that we really like. We're doing pretty much everything DIY. We're trying to do everything in-house and maybe even start bringing, using beer to kind of better our sake side. That's actually one of our
this is
big
my,
experiments that we're working on right
this
now.
Is my secret that I've been telling everyone.
Right.
It sucks that it takes 2 months to make sake when most of the fermentation happens in the second month. That first month is all about building up the yeast population.
Okay.
One of the problems with making sake is you don't get the yeast back at the end. With beer, you get twice or 4 times as much yeast at the end. You just chill it; it all drops to the bottom, and you can use it in the next batch.
Right.
With this, it's all mixed in with the rice, and so it's way too expensive to keep buying all this yeast. So you make small batches, and you just double them up.
Oh, okay. Okay, that makes sense.
So,
all right. Sorry, we're up against the break. I'm going to interrupt you, but then when I come back, I want to try these infusions. Right. See, there we go. I didn't mute my phone, just like I forgot again. Anyway, we'll be right back after this on Nicksology.
You're listening to Nicksology on ESPN 1700. Brought to you by 619 Vodka, who reminds you to always drink responsibly. Find out more at 619vodka.com.
Hey, Mr. Credit here. If you ever catch me at happy hour, you'll probably catch me drinking a vodka martini. I don't always drink vodka, but when I do, I drink 619 vodka because it's local vodka from right here in San Diego. I know the owner, and you can meet him too. Go to 619vodka.com and think 619 Vodka when you're out there having a good time. That's 619vodka.com. And of course, remember to always drink responsibly.
CS Keys here to tell you about San Diego's handcrafted ultra premium vodka, 619 Vodka. It's distilled and filtered 5 times. Gluten-free and made from 100% pure mountain spring water for a smooth, clean finish. It's a 2-time silver medal winner and a 2-time gold medal winner already in 2013. America's Finest City has America's Finest Vodka that everybody can experience. Just go to the website, 619vodka.com. If you know like I know, you better tell someone.
Are you ready to own a piece of America's finest city? Whether you're sick of paying rent, need a tax deduction, or want to secure your retirement, the list is long when it comes to the benefits of home ownership. But where do you start? You start with a company accredited with a Better Business Bureau since 2009 and 0 complaints at the BBB in its history. A company that provides free loan pre-approvals, free mortgage planning, and a free appraisal when you close your loan with Pure Mortgage. 888-254-3000. That's 888-254-3001. Pure Mortgage is an Inc. 5000 recognized company for years 2013 and 2014 with specialists in VA, FHA, conventional, jumbo, and even reverse mortgages. Take the first step toward owning a home and call Pure Mortgage today at 888-254-3001. That's 888-254-3001 or visit them online at puremortgage.com. Your dream home is just a phone call away and Pure Mortgage is ready to help. Call 888-254-3001. That's 888-254-3001 right now. Or go to puremortgage.com. NMLS number 71394. Loans made or arranged pursuant to a California Finance Lender's Law license. Number 603I788. California Bureau of Real Estate. Correspondent lender number 01848940. Pure Mortgage is an equal housing lender.
Guys, when you buy your clothes at DXL, you look good. but you feel like a rock star. So if you want to look and feel like a... You'll find all the brands you love, waist size 38 and up, all in one awesome store. DXL, you're looking good. Right now, Harbor Bay cargo shorts are just $39.99 each when you buy 2 or more.
Mexico has had it with the corruption, with the contracts for their buddies, with White Houses, and with devaluation. The time of the polished politicians with no ideas is over. With your energy, your creativity, and your love, they are changing Mexico. And with your participation, you are about to say goodbye to those politicians. They understand what you want, and they are with you. That's why they put the PRD in your hands. So together, they can change Mexico.
We have a vision for Tijuana. Transform it into the best city of Mexico, with more industrial clusters and support for entrepreneurs. With the urban development that in the last 6 years has been abandoned. With a new transportation system where we all win and an efficient and responsive police. An intelligent, sustainable, safe, and prosperous city. Together, we'll make Tijuana the best city of Mexico. Juan Manuel Gastelum. You, me, us, Tijuana.
And now, back to Nicksology on ESPN 1700. Brought to you by 619 Vodka, who reminds you to always drink responsibly. Find out more at 619vodka.com.
All right, welcome back to Nicksology. Excuse me. We've got Charles and Ilija here from Kuracali Sake and Beer Brewing on. And we're talking about their sake stuff right now. And right when we went to break, you were about to mention your super secret plan.
My super secret plan.
Yeah,
Shh, don't tell everyone.
Yeah. Because just to recap real quick, you were saying that when you brew the sake, you lose the yeast, right?
That's right. At the end, I have to separate the rice solids out from the rest of the liquid, and when I do that, I lose all of the yeast that grew up inside.
Okay.
So every time I have to start with a new pitch of yeast, and yeast is expensive.
Yeah.
So my secret cunning plan is this. I'm going to make, in fact, I have made sake yeast beer. When you make a beer, you get 2 or 4 times as much yeast done at the end, and breweries will repitch. Batch after batch. They'll take from the previous one.
That's kind of, I feel like that's something I should have known, but didn't really realize.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a way that they can take the yeast, and they only buy it once, and then they'll use it 7 times, and then they'll buy another one, because they don't want it to deviate too far. You know?
Right.
But how could I do that with sake? Well, I could make a beer. Sake yeast beer is good. Nice and tasty. And then at the end, I've got twice as much yeast, a large amount of yeast. I can toss that in a large amount of sake. And then I can skip all of the doublings.
And then, so you can get your ferment happening faster and all that stuff.
And then perhaps using that, I can shorten my time from 2 months to 1 month. It's like my tanks are twice as big.
Oh, cool.
So we'll see how it works out. I'm trying that right now.
Have you done so you're doing the first sake beer right now?
Right. Well, I did the sake
beer.
Actually,
we're in R&D right now.
But I did bring the sake yeast beer. What I have just done back in the brewery is toss the yeast that came out of the beer into a new batch of sake.
Ah, okay. So that's the experiment now.
Yeah, now I got to make sure that the flavor is still awesome.
Right. Okay. And then so the other thing you guys are doing, you said, are infusions, because people were asking for them. Now I don't think it's not a normal thing,
nope.
Right? I've not seen sake infusions before.
Not so much.
Okay.
Well,
so this is the Californication of sake?
Well, sort of, yeah. I mean, I'm sure they're out there. I'm sure there's somebody that's done it before. I mean, there's no new idea under the sun, I don't think. But,
and in Japan, they've got one of everything. And then there's plum sake, and there's all kinds of different plum wine, and there's all kinds of different things the Japanese are doing. They've got 1,000 different craft sake breweries. I'm sure somebody's doing it, but you don't see it much in the States here.
Okay.
So,
and then so when you do your infusions, how are you doing them?
It's just a essence addition at the end.
Okay.
I would love to start brewing the fruits and the flavors in the brewing process, but I'm so limited in space right now. So this is a way to take that one big batch, which I've already separated into cloudy and clear, and take it several more different ways.
Okay.
Well, plus we try to play with the dryness versus sweetness.
Mm-hmm. So that was about to be my next question. So when you're doing a batch, how do you what makes it a dry versus sweet? And
the balance of the water, the koji, and the rice. The sake will naturally get all the way up to 17, 18, 19%.
Okay.
And then the yeast won't want to work anymore. But those enzymes from the koji, if there's still rice in there,
they'll keep working.
They'll keep working,
Keep
and just
cranking out
more
some sugar.
time will produce some more. And that'll stop when the enzymes run out of things to work on, or the enzymes themselves become deactivated.
Okay.
So I can take one batch and I can guide it further. I can stop it early, or I can let it keep going to be more dry if there's more water in there, or to be more sweet if there's less water and more solids.
Okay, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
It's awesome to watch him work, though, because I get the opportunity to taste everything pretty much all the way through the equation. You know, I am the guinea pig.
Right.
And actually, when he was first learning how to do sake, I was also a guinea pig at that point, too.
Awesome.
So it was
Back
awesome
in the garage.
to see. Well, and what's great is I had some, because they're still live cultures and stuff, sometimes we'd cap them too tight and they'd fizz up on us a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And I really like that, you know. That for me, I really like fizzy sake, and that's something we played with as well, just to see what that was like.
Oh,
you
that
know?
like a light carbonation to
Exactly.
it. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. Exactly, and it's really awesome to see just kind of the flexibility of sake in general.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
So we brought 3 flavors with us that we
Yeah,
wanted you
let's
guys to
try
try.
some of quick question about the rice. So, and I remember talking to Josh about this from Setting Sun. We were talking
Rice
about
is
off the air.
important.
And so how hard is it to get the rice you need, and do you have to do stuff with it on your own afterward, mill it or polish it or whatever they do to the rice?
I order my price.
Big machine.
Okay. Yeah.
The big machine costs $20,000 for a small one. I don't have that kind of money.
Right.
But the rice mills will actually mill it to my specifications.
Oh, cool.
I've gotten rice from several different places. I've gotten most of it just from the Central Valley here in California. Calrose rice milled 40% ground off, so only 60% of the weight is left.
Okay.
This means all of the proteins and oils that are on the outside
Right.
get, those are the ones that give you that burny taste. You know, if you got cheap sake, usually served hot, it's because they didn't go through this extra expense of grinding that off, leaving the pure starch interior, which the yeast, which the koji loves to turn into very nice sugars, and which the yeast loves to turn into alcohol, not leaving mistakes behind that give you the alcohol-y taste.
Right. Okay. And then the hot sake thing, because you know, growing up in California with the sushi thing, for the first, I don't know, 10 years I drank sake. It was always hot. Is that a Japanese thing or an American thing? I feel like it's an American thing to mask crappy sake.
It is an American perversion of a very nice Japanese thing.
Okay.
Hot sake, or the heat, will hide flavors just like a really cold beer will hide bad flavors.
Okay.
You're deactivating taste buds.
Okay.
Now, so you can serve cheap sake hot, and it's cheap and easy to get people to a little bit loosened up so that they'll buy more sushi. But one thing that I like to tell people
works
is
on me, by the way.
Oh, it worked.
Yeah. But hot sake is not wrong.
Right.
It's not a bad thing to do. If you ever had a very nice wassail or mulled wine, it's great to warm you up. You're not feeling good. It can
clear you up.
Yeah, or when it's cold outside.
But would you not? Would you not want to do that with a good sake, or?
I wouldn't do it with an $80 bottle of sake.
Okay.
I also wouldn't do it with a $5 bottle of sake.
Okay.
I would choose something in the middle.
Something in the middle.
Yeah.
I feel like I field that question a lot at the tasting room.
Yeah.
And kind of my canned answer is I wouldn't presume to tell you what to do in your own home. I'm in favor of people experimenting with their sake, taking home a little growler and seeing what they like about it. I've had people come in and say they've made cocktails from it and they love it, I've had people come in and say, I warmed it up and it was really nice. And it was like, well, yeah, it's decent sake that you warmed up. It's good.
Right, okay.
But there's no wrong way, I think, so far.
Yeah. I've thought a lot about this whole right and wrong way thing a long time, because I've been in the spirits world for a while. And, I remember even going to like Macallan tastings where the guy, the guy with the plaid pants is up there doing his whole song and dance, and he's like, I'm not going to tell you can't put, you shouldn't drink it on the rocks or this or that. And I'm like, no. You're making the Macallan and it's $90 a bottle.
Yeah.
You tell me how I'm supposed to drink it. I don't know what the heck
yeah.
I'm doing. Yeah. So no, you can tell me I'm wrong. But it's like making a really crappy margarita with expensive tequila.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's not good. It's wrong.
There's definitely some sacrilegious elements to it. I'll definitely say that.
Yeah, so I'll call out right and wrong right there. But yeah, so I wouldn't take a crazy bottle of sake. But no, for me, like sake, like I said, I think, ironically, I don't know if it's ironic or not, but my first experience with real sake was I was with some friends and we were in Las Vegas and went to someplace I think in the Mandalay Bay. There's a really nice upscale Japanese sushi restaurant, and not that they don't have them in sushi restaurants here, but there the whole menu it's divided and it's all these crazy expensive sakes and they come out chilled on an ice thing and whatever, and the whole
bath pouring over.
Where's my hot sake bomb thing, whatever? And we're not wanting to look stupid. We're like, oh, this is great, and it really was really good stuff. I mean, we ended up going back the next day just to get the sake. I forget what it was, but yeah, that was my first foray into sake is actually supposed to be cold and and clear and that whole thing. But
so what we got here in front of us, what are we working with? We're going raspberry.
So
I see blueberry,
blueberry,
hazelnut, blueberry, raspberry, hazelnut.
Okay. You trying to? I love blueberry. Anything blueberry.
Now these are on the base of our sweeter sake. The first two that I served you are the more dry, but I found that the flavors really want extra sugar in there to balance them.
Yeah.
And most of the roundness of the flavor comes from the sake, not from the fruit infusion.
Well, no, that's like I expected. I guess
a little bit more kick in the teeth on the blueberry.
And I expected it to be sweet and
I'm very subtle.
And so I like that a lot. No, I was expecting to be like, okay, it's like a syrupy kind of thing, but
it tastes
really good.
We've done it also in Nigori, and it's kind of interesting the effect that it has with the cloudy sake, because you do, especially with like the berries, you kind of get. I don't know. For me, I was like, oh, maybe it kind of tasted more like a berry milkshake to me, in a way.
Right. That makes
like
sense.
a boozy berry milkshake.
That raspberry is really good too. Yeah. So these you're doing up your sweeter sake and just infusing them. With
just at the end.
Yeah. That's cool. So then I guess I'm trying to figure out. So there's the whole. Well, one thing I want to go back to, unpasteurized. So is that a
unpasteurized for the moment?
Okay.
Unpasteurized just because we don't have a proper pasteurization setup.
Okay.
In order to get out into the restaurants, this is something that I have to set up and do right. They're not the restaurants that know how to handle expensive sake know how to take a namasake, which has been unpasteurized. They don't ever let it sit out on the counter. Right. Goes straight into the refrigerator because the live cultures are still there. The enzymes are still there. Okay. The yeast is still there. And in fact, if you leave it out, it's going to turn sour, or it's going to turn vinegary.
Especially if you have poured it out and it's not completely clear. I mean, the clearer the sake, the less likely you are to see real changes.
Okay.
I've left clear out and tried it when after a couple of days, just letting it sit out, and it is usually pretty fine.
Because it's high alcohol. It takes a lot to actually abuse a sake, but it will change. So for that reason, we have to get the pasteurization working, and that's what we will be putting into the restaurants. These fancy bottles. I want a restaurant to be able to be confident that they're going to get the same product. It's not going to change over a week or two.
Right.
Their customers are going to know that they're going to get the same thing that they had last time.
Okay. And then so the other question I was trying to get into is there's levels of sake, right? And is there, where do you fit in that, I guess?
We have
I don't know what the levels are, so.
The levels for to first
they revolve around the level of milling on the rice, right? Okay.
To first approximation, it's how much the rice is ground off.
Okay.
A rice that when there's just white rice and they haven't really taken all that much of the material off of the outside, that's just regular sake.
Okay.
Then if they've at least 40% has been ground away, they call that ginjo grade.
Ginjo. Okay.
Ours is all ginjo.
Okay.
If you've got at least half of the rice grain gone, only 50% is left, that's called daiginjo. And anything further than that is also called daiginjo.
Okay.
And it's pretty straightforward. The more you grind those proteins off, the better the more delicate the sake is,
refined and delicate,
and the more it costs, because it costs more for that rice.
Right.
Beyond that, there's other things that make us that add to the quality. I mean, just the processing, how much care is taken to it.
Sure.
And when we press,
the filtration, the pasteurization, all that stuff.
Yeah, the way that we press our sake is actually depending on what we're trying to do. We have an extra press grade, which is taken from the center of the kind of entire mix, and then we allow that to
just
drip in the cold. And you end up with an extremely delicate final product that is kind of sort of our reserve grade for now.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah, that's a separate, and in fact, many of the higher quality Japanese sakes do that too. They will say this wasn't come from the free run, and this is a lot like the spirits. You've got different cuts when you're coming out of a batch. When we've got this batch at the end, there are different cuts. The stuff that just free runs out without having to do any work, that's a little bit rougher.
Right.
Because it has some of those particulates that were on the outside of the grain. Right. The stuff where you had to hang the bag and let it drip, that stuff is the most delicate because it was protected inside the rice kernel, and that's where the liquid is. And then at the very end, many of sake breweries will press real hard, and that will also be a little bit more rough because then it's more ricey, grainy.
Okay. Man, I'm feeling those. You taste that? That's really good. Yeah, they're great.
Anyway, the hazelnut?
Yeah, the hazelnut's good. They're all really good. So we're up against a break, and then we come back and we'll switch gears and try some beer, guys.
Right. Absolutely.
So we'll be right back right after this on ESPN Radio.
You're listening to Nicksology on ESPN 1700, brought to you by 619 Vodka, who reminds you to always drink responsibly. Find out more at 619vodka.com.
Hey, Mr. Credit here. If you ever catch me at happy hour, you'll probably catch me drinking a vodka martini. I don't always drink vodka, but when I do, I drink 619 Vodka because it's local vodka from right here in San Diego. I know the owner, and you can meet him too. Go to 619vodka.com and think 619 Vodka when you're out there having a good time. That's 619vodka.com. And of course, remember to always drink responsibly.
CS Keys here to tell you about San Diego's handcrafted ultra premium vodka, 619 Vodka. It's distilled and filtered 5 times. Gluten-free and made from 100% pure mountain spring water for a smooth, clean finish. It's a 2-time silver medal winner and a 2-time gold medal winner already in 2013. America's Finest City has America's Finest Vodka that everybody can experience. Just go to the website, 619vodka.com. If you know like I know, you better tell somebody.
Is it time to sell your home, but you can't get top dollar because you need to make some repairs? Unless you're ready to take a lowball offer from some investor, you should call Agents Capital today or ask your real estate agent about them. Agents Capital will provide your realtor with access to the capital needed to fix up your home so it can be sold for top dollar. This means more money in your pocket at closing without having to come up with the cost of repairs ahead of time. To find out how you can use Agents Capital to fix up your home and sell it at top market value, call 888-265-4613 today. That's 888-265-4613. Or go to agentscapital.com. Don't miss the chance to put extra money in your pocket when selling in this great market. Call Agents Capital, 888-265-4613. That's 888-265-4613. Or visit agentscapital.com. That's agentscapital.com.
This is John Feinstein with the CBS Sports Minute, brought to you by Pork Be Inspired. Grill for it at porkbeinspired.com. In case you weren't paying attention to golf this past weekend, 2 very important events took place. No, Tiger Woods didn't play an 18-hole round of golf someplace. It wasn't quite that big. But Rory McIlroy won the tournament he's always wanted to win most outside of the 4 majors, the Irish Open. He did it by finishing birdie, par, eagle after losing the lead he'd held for most of the last round, and more important, he did it by doing something he's been unable to do all year, finishing strong on a Sunday in a tournament he's dreamed of winning for years. Meanwhile in Texas, Sergio Garcia won on the PGA Tour for the first time in 4 years. That too is a big deal. El Nino, the kid, is an elder now at 36, but he still has some game left in him. I'm John Feinstein.
Yo, it's me, The Grill. Why don't you put down that garden hose and get over here? We got some grilling to do. So scrape my grate and lay it on me. Spicy Korean pork chops, grilled pork burritos, and double smoky ribs with bacon, bourbon, barbecue sauce. Woo-wee! I'm getting up to 350 real fast. So come on, let's grill for it. Want to grill for it this summer? Get started at porkbeinspired.com. This message funded by America's Pork Producers and the Pork Checkoff.
Ryobi has changed the power tool game. With our power wherever you need it ONE+ battery that runs over 70 tools. Innovation that makes home improvement faster and easier than ever. You can drill it, drive it, cut it, sand it, trim it, nail it, do it yourself, all on the same battery. Ryobi One Plus, the next generation of power. Available only at the Home Depot. Now at Ryobi Days, our 4-piece lithium-ion super combo kit is only $129, a $50 savings.
And now, back to Nicksology on ESPN 1700. Brought to you by 619 Vodka, who reminds you to always drink responsibly. Find out more at 619vodka.com.
Oh, man. The good ins and outs of city zoning and all that kind of fun stuff. Welcome back to Nicksology. I've got Chuck and Ilija here from Kuracali Brewing and Sake and Beer Company. I'm sorry, I got to read your shirts. Yeah. And we tried some amazing. By the way, so you can't see this on the radio, but there's a bottle here that leans sideways, not on purpose. It came out of the box that way, apparently. But like, I'm thinking I'm gonna have to redesign my bottles in a little while, and I'm like, a little tilt to them.
Yeah,
like the bartenders would go nuts.
Oh yeah.
They had to pull them out in and out of the speed rail that way. They'd go crazy. There, look at that.
It's fantastic.
It's like the leaning tower of sake. It's awesome. Yeah. No, if I didn't think bartenders would just shoot me in the head and try to get it done on the speed rails. Oh man. Okay, so sake and beer. So now let's get to the beer side. So, by the way, so did it start with one and morph to the other, or did they? When you finally went for the commercial thing, you did them both together?
Well, my intention all along has been to do sake and beer at the same time.
Okay.
Part of the reason is like what we talked about before. I wanted to be able to use one to benefit the other.
Right.
But also it's a little bit based on fear. What if nobody likes my sake? At least people will drink beer. What if nobody likes my beer? At least they got sake.
Right.
There's been another huge advantage to me that I didn't even realize at the time, though.
Okay.
There is no sake map. But there is a beer brewery map.
The beer. Yeah. Like we have the same thing for the Distillers Guild. We have the distillery
map.
Yeah.
So you at least have a map.
Yeah. The sake, yeah. Well, you and Josh could have made a map together.
Well,
sure.
Initially, it kind of would have been a lonely map. One dot out in San Marcos.
Right.
You know.
Well, it's weird, but that the funny part is that's only because not only because, but in your mind, in your mind's eye, you're brewing, right?
Exactly.
But the California says, "Oh no, you're making
wine."
And I don't really understand. I mean, well, of course, I'm sure they couldn't probably explain it either. But do you have any idea why that is?
History.
It's just history.
Some
because it's called rice wine, and
some guys from America and England and wherever, or actually Spain, showed up in Japan, Portuguese. They showed up in Japan and said, "Look at this rice wine that they're making."
Right.
And it looked like wine. It was clear. It wasn't carbonated, and it was potent.
And they weren't mashing it.
They weren't mashing it.
Yeah.
So they said, "Look at this wine." Now the federal government here says, "No, this is made from grain, not fruit. If it were fruit, it would be a wine, but grain, it's a beer."
Wait. So the feds consider you a brewery?
Yes.
So you have two federal brewing licenses, or one that encompasses the whole property?
Well, actually, I have two separate licenses applied different ways.
Okay.
So for the state of California, I have a brewery and a winery side by side.
Right. Okay.
But the feds say that that's all just a brewery, but it's sold in a wine bottle. Therefore, you got to have a winery license too. So for the feds, I have a brewery and a winery license on top of each other.
Oh my goodness! On the same footprint.
On the same
beautifully split right down the middle tasting room.
Right. We have to draw a line. Well, yeah. I mean, Ballast Point went through that too, when they wanted to add spirits, right? And Manzanita and those guys. Yeah. But at least that makes a little bit more sense, right? If you're, I get the second you're firing up a still, you're doing something different,
really.
But in the meantime, because mead is wine.
Mead is
right?
wine. Agriculture. It comes from an agricultural fruit source. Well, although that's just bees, honey. But the feds say that if it came from a grain, we want you to have a brewer's permit. But if it came from anything else, any fruit based, then
I don't even
want to see.
I don't even want to see what your tax.
It's actually it actually looks. It's a little bit crazy. And here I also
proof
make
gallons of this and some of that, and
it actually benefits me as far as the federal tax rate is concerned.
Oh, okay.
Unlike you'll notice that a lot of the meads coming out are right at 15.9%.
Okay.
Because they hit a new tax rate for wine at a higher level.
Oh, really?
But the feds say this is a beer.
Oh, good thing we got into Nick's accounting hour.
Well, no, but I know. Sometimes this show does go into the weeds,
happens.
though. Only because I deal with this all the time.
Little bird walking never hurt anybody.
Well, no, because you guys also because because distilleries are fighting this issue where we're taxed at the same rate as everyone else, right? But as long as you produce a small amount, you're taxed at a different level than the big producers, right?
That's nice.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I got into the wrong business. That's what happened. No, go ahead. Sorry.
But anyway, why do beer as well as sake? Well, I love beer. If I'm going to go to all this trouble of setting up a brewery, I want to make beer.
Right.
And it's just submitting all the forms twice.
Right.
So I have a brewery as well as a winery, and I get to do both, which is really cool. It also means that visitors who come to my tasting room in parties, somebody's just not going to want sake.
Not a beer drinker, or not a sake drinker.
Not a sake drinker.
Totally.
Some of them are not beer drinkers,
right.
and they both get to. We've got a fun environment in our tasting room. We've got 2 tasting rooms with a bar down the middle, and so you can be on the sake side, you can be on the beer side, you can talk to each other, but you're separated.
If it were me, just because I'm, I can be a bit of an a-hole sometimes.
You would test me.
No,
those are the ones we like.
No, I would just have a giant yellow line down the middle. I'd be like, hey, this is what's over here. Just to, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know why I would, but that's what I would do.
Well, this was the compromise.
Well, we have a giant blue line.
Yeah.
So.
We do have a blue line.
Oh, yeah. Well, see, there you go. It's a line down the middle. All right, so what are we drinking? This is really tasty.
This is the Mellow Brown. This was actually my very first beer. I was so excited to finally get my brewer's notice. And beer happens faster than sake.
Right.
So on January 1st, 2015, I had one beer done, and I rolled up the doors and said, here, I've got a beer. Don't ever do that. That's terrible business. But this was also very, people came in, they liked it. This was the beer that was getting picked up in restaurants outside because it's an approachable beer.
Yeah,
I mean, and until recently, now there are some more browns and porters and stouts around town. We're in IPAville. Browns and porters and stouts. Not everybody wants a hot bomb.
Right.
And
I'm sure you guys listen to every episode of this show. But no, I love hoppy beers, but I feel like there was a point where it got too hoppy.
Yeah.
There. And I love a good a good brown ale, a porter, a stout, whatever. And so this is really good. And I think finally San Diego's starting to kind of change around a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, we're fans of a drinkable beer. I mean, that's the thing is like if you can't have more than I mean, that's at least it's my theory is that if there's one beer that you can only have one of,
right?
You know, it's less exciting. You know,
I told my 11 Guinness story, right?
Oh my God.
So quick recap, because I've sold this on the. I was at a bar in Wisconsin. I was done with my work. I was out there for work. I was flying out the next day. I go into this Irish pub because every town in the world has one. Start drinking beers. Guinness, Guinness, and at one point the bartender looks at me and she's like, "Cause I say, yeah." In other words, she's like, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, "Am I cut off? Am I like?" She's like, "No, I've just never seen anyone drink 11 Guinness in a row." And I'm like, "Oh, I can. That's an easy thing for me. I can do 11 Guinness no problem." But no, so I was going to ask you. So when you do sake, sorry to segue backwards, but is there any part of that process that requires cooling or chilling?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The entire process, except for the steaming of the rice, is just like a ale or lager. Well, so it's all cold.
So I was leaning towards. So then, are you guys toying with or thinking about doing any lagers? Because I feel like that's the next cool thing that's happening. Is finally people are doing lagers in San Diego.
Do you remember the fuss that happened at the Super Bowl? Not last year, the year before. The one where Budweiser came out and said. This was talking about beer snobs and did a commercial, and I said, we're craft beer. I'm not at all bothered by Budweiser doing a commercial saying this isn't, you shouldn't be a beer snob. I'm not at all concerned, but why don't we do a rice lager? We know rice.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, and we know good rice. We know how to take a rice lager to extremes. So you can look for that in the relatively near future.
Okay. So then, pardon me. So what would make that different from a sake then? Is you would take the rice and mash it.
Yeah. Well, yes. What I would do is I would
you wouldn't use the koji, basically. Right.
Okay. I would make a rice beer. I might, and in fact, I would use a lager yeast, but I would use the very special rice that we've got. And yes, I might actually put koji in.
Well, actually,
that's fine too.
Yeah.
That's the second beer we brought. We'd like to share with you guys.
Beer is it's not a rice lager. This second beer is a sake yeast koji wheat beer.
I'm sorry, I can't get over the Kopi bottle.
It's hilarious, isn't it?
No, I mean, because it looks purposeful. It totally looks purposeful.
No.
Like I feel like if you were, I don't know if that would. like on a retail shelf, if you saw these tilted bottles, like I don't know.
Oh,
I'm trying to
it'd
think of a way
definitely
you
be
could have a cool
eye-catching.
display. Yeah.
But I'm imagining
Yeah.
people like running underneath it and holding their hands out, thinking they're gonna fall over.
No,
you know?
and like I said, my bartender friends would kill me. All right. Maybe we'll do them and just sell them in the new distillery. That's it. Sell them in the new shop. All right, so I'm gonna cut you off real quick because I've run over the last couple of breaks. So let's take a break and then we'll come back and we'll talk about this because this is the
Sake East Koji wheat beer.
Sweet. All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk about that right after this.
You're listening to Nicksology on ESPN 1700. Brought to you by 619 Vodka, who reminds you to always drink responsibly. Find out more at 619vodka.com.
Hey, Mr. Credit here. If you ever catch me at happy hour, you'll probably catch me drinking a vodka martini. I don't always drink vodka, but when I do, I drink 619 vodka because it's local vodka from right here in San Diego. I know the owner, and you can meet him too. Go to 619vodka.com and think 619 vodka when you're out there having a good time. That's 619vodka.com. And of course, remember to always drink responsibly.
CS Keys here to tell you about San Diego's handcrafted ultra premium vodka, 619 Vodka. It's distilled and filtered 5 times, gluten-free, and made from 100% pure mountain spring water for a smooth, clean finish. It's a 2-time silver medal winner and a 2-time gold medal winner already in 2013. America's finest city has America's finest vodka that everybody can experience. Just go to the website, 619vodka.com. If you know like I know, you better tell somebody.
And now, back to Nicksology on ESPN 1700. Brought to you by 619 Vodka, who reminds you to always drink responsibly. Find out more at 619vodka.com.
Did I screw up? I thought we had like 3-minute breaks. All right. Okay. Well, welcome back. Sorry, we were in the middle of shop talk. Welcome back to Nicksology. I've got Chuck and Ilija here from Kuracali Sake and Beer Brewing. I got it right that time.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. That. I know.
Killed it.
Okay, and so you poured me this really cool thing. So we were talking about lagers, and then you guys said you're going to do some cool stuff with a rice lager. Is that basically what we're drinking?
Nope, not at all. This is entirely different.
I
was just trying to segue that one in.
All right, no, it's good.
Slip that one in sideways.
So what's this one?
This is a Sake
This
East.
is your fusion thing?
This is Cold Fusion, a Sake East Koji wheat beer. This was an attempt to make a wheat beer, but instead of using Belgian yeast, I wanted to use sake yeast. The reason is to propagate the yeast as a test, and also to have a drinkable session beer.
So this is the beer you made, and then you took the yeast now and you pitched it into the...
exactly.
Gotcha. Okay. I like this. This is good.
It's a little airy. It's nice.
And this is a very light. The brown was a 6% brown ale. This right here is a 4% wheat beer.
Okay. So that brings up an interesting point. So when you're doing beers, and one of the things I like about... so I used to homebrew too, and my lament is 20 years ago I tried to talk my dad into starting a brewery. He's like, oh, there's already like 8 of them. There's too many. So, I could have been Ballast Point and retired by now, but instead I'm doing this. But one of the things I always liked about the brewing and homebrewing and all that stuff was that there was never... You never ran out of ideas, right? Because there was always like, hey, there's this new hop I want to try, or a new yeast I want to try, or whatever. And obviously, for beers, you can make a beer with pretty much any yeast you want,
right?
And even in the distilling side, we sometimes use wine yeast or whatever to do. But on the sake side, is it sake yeast and that's it?
Okay. Actually,
because you mentioned like this is the sake yeast, and but could you make a sake with like a quote-unquote wine yeast? Okay.
I had a very well-received sake made from a pair of cider and mead yeasts that I dropped in together in the ferment. That was just an experiment that I was going to try. It came out very dry, tasted like a white wine.
Okay.
And I was glad that I had it because my other batch didn't work out, and so I served it in the tasting room.
Okay.
The sake yeast is just a top fermenting ale yeast, just like any other beer yeast, but it has been trained on rice for so long that it's forgotten how to do some of the sugars in barley.
Oh, interesting.
And so when you do it in a beer, it leaves the sweetness that you otherwise wouldn't find in a lot of beer.
Because it's not going to get all of the sugars that are in there. Okay.
And also, it hasn't been trained to drop to the bottom because that never happens in sake. So it's a floaty yeast.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
That's
what makes it a sake yeast. Even. So there's nothing really magical about it.
It's a lot more excitable than a lot of beer yeast too. I mean, you'll definitely get in early fermentation. You'll get like a
blowout,
flow over effect, and
gotcha.
it looks cool.
Right.
I mean, it really does.
Okay.
Thick foam.
Very cool. And then so what other, besides the beers we have here, what other kind of stuff are you doing? And do you have like a style you guys are leaning toward in general, or
our beer styles is more our beer style is more continental. I've been practicing for the longest time the English styles, the Irish styles, and Belgian styles.
Okay.
That's what I liked to drink, so that's what I did a lot. Now, on the other hand, I am in San Diego. They're going to kick me out of the club if I don't do an IPA, so I will do an IPA. When I'm ready. The bar is high, though.
No, it is high.
In San Diego, you just don't do bad beer.
Well, here's the thing. I like IPAs. I really do like hoppy beer. And even that whole race to the, I felt like they were actually brewing with hops, right? They were making their mash out of hops at one point. But I actually like that. I just can't drink it all the time, every day, all the time.
It'll turn you green.
Yeah. But I like it, and I like the fact that we have our own sort of distinctive, that we've created this California IPA culture thing.
Yeah.
But with 126, 27 breweries, we ought to have
some. It's covered.
That's why I was talking about the lagers, because was it Two Kids Brewing that came in here with the lager? And it was really good. And I know it's more complicated to do. That's why I asked if you guys do cold and have the ability to do cold.
But I think that folds perfectly.
For you guys it does, right? Because some guys don't have the ability to do cold, right? Like, one of the reasons, so for those that don't know, the reason a lager is hard is because it's cold fermented and it's bottom yeast versus top yeast.
Takes longer.
But it's great. And so you and me and everybody else in the California, San Diego craft brewing industry brewed at home. And we were home brewers. And
Lagers
when you home brewed, you aled. Because, and there's more variety too, I think. But even when you wanted something like a lager, you basically just made a wheat and then did something with it, right? And so it's definitely a little more complicated, but I feel like at some point, with 125 breweries, we need to step up and start making a few more lagers in this town.
I also have another advantage.
My only choice shouldn't be Budweiser.
Yeah, I have another advantage for a reason. It was a good choice for us to check out the lagers. I am not intending to make the bulk of my profits from beer, but I intend and insist that I continue to have beer. Especially to draw people to the tasting room and to keep myself on the map. So I can take the tank and I can take longer with it. It's okay.
Right.
And I'm not trying to push every last minute of usefulness out of the beer tanks.
Right.
I'm trying to do that with the sake tanks.
How cold does the lager have to be? Like, you have to actually
50, 60 degrees.
Okay.
Although you bump it up and down. You've got a first couple of days. You want it to be a little bit warmer for it to chew through most of the sugars, and then most of that smooth silkiness comes from the long, slow, lagering cold stage where it's cleaning up its mess.
Right. Okay. And so, yeah, I'm excited because I really want there to be more. And so, you're not doing sours, are you?
No. Not on purpose.
Yeah. Not on purpose.
Yeah. Shane, everyone keeps giving me crap because I guess I need to get on the sour bandwagon, but I haven't done it yet.
Well, here's the thing: is you find the one you like and you stick to it. And everything else is kind of above or below that bar, in my opinion. You know?
The cool thing about beer is I feel like real beer drinkers, part of being that, it's not everyone, but I'm actually going to say something positive. Don't laugh at me. No, I feel like real beer drinkers, like, you'll go in and you'll look at the board on the wall and you'll actually try something because you haven't tried it before. And even if you don't really like it, you'll be like, I get what they were going for. Not my thing, whatever, and move on. And so there's a lot of latitude to try these new and cool different things. But yeah, I feel like.
And beer drinkers, craft beer drinkers are explorers.
A sour vodka, like it just, I don't know. Anyway, I feel like we worked really hard to get rid past that stage. But there's a lot of cool stuff going on. Do you guys know Toolbox Brewing?
Oh, I love them. They're right down the street.
Because he's doing, like in my world, he's making sour beers, but he's making them.
But he's gone to.
I want to kind of say the real
them.
way. I'm going to piss off some people now. But he's doing it with cool yeast, and he's out there trying to find stuff, and he's not just throwing some bacteria in at the end trying to sour something up. And I liked his stuff when they were on. It was really good. Yeah.
We like to describe ourselves sort of as a mad science, kind of a lab going on.
Right.
You know, we're always experimenting, playing around, seeing what looks like what. And I think that's kind of just the general atmosphere of San Diego beer brewing, period, is there's a lot of mad science going here.
Right.
You know?
No, and it's great. And with so many people, everyone can be a little bit different, do something a little
and you have to.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
Which one?
Either one.
Cold
Your
Fusion or
dealer's
the
choice.
brown?
No,
Did you like
the
Cold
brown. I
Fusion?
like the brown.
You
I
like
like
the
them both, really, but I'll go back for the brown. Yeah. So in the last few minutes, I want to make sure I get to this stuff. So we have you guys have the. I'm so bummed. I'm not going to. I'm going to try.
Oh, yeah.
We have the Beer and Sake Festival coming up.
Uh-huh.
And this will be your guys' first year doing that.
That's right. I mean, we're a sake and beer brewery. There's a sake and beer festival in
it's
San
like made
Diego.
for you guys.
How could that
It's
not be
awesome.
more perfect?
Yeah, totally. And so that's next Friday, next Friday, June 3rd.
June 3rd.
Up at Harrah's or yeah.
Harrah's Rincon Casino.
Yeah, I'm bummed I don't get to go to that. They have really good food there too.
Uh-huh.
In fact, I'm pretty sure Evan will
Evan,
be there,
yes.
Psycho Sushi. In fact, yeah, they'll be pouring sakes and stuff.
Mhm.
And then where are you guys located?
We're in San Marcos.
Okay.
Just off of the 78 Rancho Santa Fe exit.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Yeah. Very nice.
For those of you that have a pen and pencil ready, 175 Bostic Boulevard, San Marcos, California.
Bostic Boulevard.
Go, Ilija.
That sounds like a Monopoly game thing.
Yeah. Bostic. We have the best real estate.
Nice. Very cool. Yeah. Well, dude, this is good stuff, man.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm
Thanks for
excited about your sakes
and leaning
Hey,
bottles.
Jeff, when are we out? Because I heard 6, and is it different now?
2 minutes, 57.
Okay. Thank you. Clearly, I am not a trained professional. No, cool. So, help me out.
Well,
I don't know where we're going.
What we're doing here is we're making a California sake. It's not traditional. It's California, as best we can, and we love to share it.
Yeah. No, I like that. And so so you're currently not in restaurants, right? They have to come by the tasting room.
That's right. That's our current challenge. That's what I'm doing right now is building the cases to get out into the restaurants. I want you to be able to go into local sushi restaurants, chef-driven restaurants, and fusion places to have something made local here that goes with the food really well.
That's great. That's awesome stuff. And then, so the beer is going to be secondary.
Yeah,
but you're still going to do.
Oh, absolutely.
Is your plan for that to go into?
I did in the past. And that you'll find it in a few select places, but we're not going to push it. It's going to be when the customers draw it out. That's where it'll go. I'm not going to fight Ballast Point. What's the point in that?
Yeah. They're a pariah now. It's all good.
They're a pariah.
I still don't feel that way, but they kind of are. And then it's a 10 barrel and there's all that stuff. But all right. Well, anyway, thanks for coming on, guys.
Well, thanks for
having us. This was really awesome. A quick programming note: we will not be on next Tuesday. We are preempted thanks to Padres Social Hour. But because of that, we're going to be doing a show. Can I say it? I don't know. I haven't gotten the confirmation yet. We're going to try and do a live show from 1919 downtown next Friday, actually the same day as the beer festival, June 3rd, from 3 to 4 p.m. So that's our goal. We should be on the air next Friday, June 3rd, 3 to 4 from 1919 downtown. If that changes, we'll obviously post it on Facebook and all that good stuff. Thanks for coming in, guys. That was awesome. Did you have fun?
Thanks for having us. Yeah, it was a blast.
Excellent. All right, cool. So we'll see you next week, Friday, on Nicksology on ESPN Radio. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you for listening to Nicksology on ESPN 1700, hosted by Nick Apostolopoulos. Nick is the owner of 619 Vodka. Find out more about this locally owned vodka at 619vodka.com.